The first time my father apologized before asking me a question, I knew something had changed. His name flashed across my phone on a quiet Tuesday afternoon while I was leaving the office. I smiled when I saw it. My father rarely called during working hours unless it was someone's birthday or he needed to remind me to greet an uncle I had forgotten. "Hello, Dad. Mark, are you busy?" His voice sounded careful. Too careful. I told him I could talk. There was a long pause, long enough that I pulled my car keys back out of my pocket and sat on a concrete bench outside the building. My name is Mark, and for most of my life, I believed my father would always be the one solving everyone else's problems. I never imagined there would come a day when he would call because he had run out of ways to solve his own. Growing up, my father had an answer for everything. School fees were paid before the deadline. If the roof leaked, he fixed it. If someone fell sick, he somehow found money for the hospital. When relatives needed help, they came to him. As children, we thought money simply appeared whenever Dad decided it should. We never saw the calculations behind it, only the results. Whenever my mother worried about expenses, he'd smile and say, "We'll manage." And somehow, we always did. Looking back now, I realized that children mistake consistencies for ease. Just because something happens every month doesn't mean it happens without sacrifice. After university, I found a good job and threw myself into building my own life. Work became busier. The promotions came, rent increased. Life moved faster than I expected. I still called my parents every week, but our conversations became predictable. "How's work?" "Fine." "Are you eating well?" "Yes." "Take care of yourself." "You too." I assumed they were doing exactly what they'd always done. Managing parents have a way of making stability look permanent. Until one day they can't. On that Tuesday afternoon, my father cleared his throat. "I actually wanted to ask you something." I leaned back on the bench. "What is it, Dad?" Another silence. I wasn't sure whether I should call. The words felt strange coming from him. My father had never sounded unsure of himself. "I'll receive my pension eventually," he said quietly. "They're still delaying it." I waited. There have also been some medical bills. His voice became almost a whisper. "I was wondering." He stopped, then started again. "I was wondering if you could lend me some money." The word "lend" broke my heart. Not because of the amount, because he couldn't bring himself to simply ask. "I'll pay you back as soon as the pension comes," he said quickly. "I don't want you thinking." "Dad," I interrupted him, "you don't have to explain." "No, let me finish." His voice trembled slightly. "I know you have your own responsibilities now. I know life is expensive. If you can't, I completely understand." For a moment, I couldn't speak. I kept thinking about all the years I'd walked into his room asking for money without rehearsing a single sentence. School trips, textbooks, transport, university fees, job interview clothes. I had never apologized before asking. I had never promised to repay him. I had simply believed my father would find a way, and somehow he always had. I sent the money before we even ended the call. A minute later, my phone vibrated. "Thank you, my son." Then another message. "I'll return it as soon as I can." I stared at those words for a long time. I never replied to that part. Instead, I wrote, "Love you, Dad." His response came several minutes later. "Love you too." It was only the second time I could remember him writing those words. A few weeks later, I drove home for the weekend. Nothing looked dramatically different. The house was the same. The gate still squeaked. My mother still complained that I wasn't visiting often enough. But once you know someone is struggling, you start noticing things you used to overlook. My father wore the same faded pair of sandals every day. The wristwatch he'd owned for years had stopped working. He no longer bought the newspapers he used to read every morning. When we stopped at a filling station, he asked the attendant for fuel worth a specific amount instead of saying, "Fill it." That wasn't like him. On Saturday afternoon, we went to the market together. He picked up a shirt and checked the price. He smiled. "Nice." Then he quietly put it back. "You liked it," I said. "It's not necessary. You need new clothes." He laughed softly. "The old ones are still covering me." There was no bitterness in his voice, only acceptance. Later that evening, I found him sitting outside, watching the neighborhood children play football. I sat beside him. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Then he said, "Getting older is a funny thing." "How?" "You spend your whole life making sure your children never have to worry." He looked at his hand. "And then one day you worry they'll start worrying about you." I swallowed hard. "Dad, I almost didn't make that phone call." I turned toward him. "I had your number open for almost an hour." I felt something tighten in my chest. I kept asking myself whether I should wait another week. He smiled sadly. "I've never liked needing help." I shook my head. "You've helped me my whole life." He nodded. I know, another pause. "But fathers get used to giving." He looked away toward the road. "Asking feels different." That sentence stayed with me long after I drove back home. Not because my father had needed money, because he had needed permission to stop being the strongest person in the room. Over the next year, I stopped waiting for him to ask. Sometimes I sent money with no explanation. Sometimes I paid bills directly. When he protested, I always told him the same thing. "You spent years making sure I could stand on my own. It's my turn now." He would still argue. He would still insist. He didn't need much, but I noticed he stopped apologizing. That mattered more to me than anything. People often say you become an adult when you earn your first salary. I don't think that's true anymore. I think adulthood arrives the day a parent finally feels safe enough to lean on you. The day they stop protecting you from every burden and trust you to help carry one. Looking back, my father wasn't really calling to borrow money. He was asking a much bigger question. Did I raise a son who will stand beside me now, that my strength isn't what it used to be? I hope my answer reached him long before the money ever did. Because the truth is, every bill he paid, every sacrifice he hid, every dream he quietly postponed was never alone. It was a gift, and some gifts are too great to ever repay. The least I can do is make sure my father never again feels he has to apologize for needing his son.